Hey nerds. So, going to talk about this philosopher from the YouTube channel Theory and Philosophy, David Guignan, commenting on, of course, former clinical psychologist and pseudo-intellectual crackpot who I love to hate, Jordan Peterson, and his complete fucking ignorance on philosophy as usual, because always he always talks about being a fan of Nietzsche, even though Nietzsche was super fucking anti-Christian. He was a militant atheist before militant atheists existed. And Jordan Peterson talks about science, and sometimes he uses a scientific argument to justify his stupid oversimplified religious claims that he never spells out directly. But he was very critical of both religion and science. So, religion in particular, obviously Jordan Peterson is a huge grifter about. But yeah, let's get into the video here.
A lot of people have asked me what to do with ardent Jordan Peterson supporters who try to argue that trans people don't exist or that women are meant only to serve some evolutionary function for men's desires or to procreate, to reduce women to this biological function. Now, if just saying that you believe that
I was about to say, what would seem to especially conservative people some woke shit, but I think he's more of a philosopher, although he's clearly a lefty. Although, anyway, there's this idea that Jordan Peterson has, and his opinion hasn't changed on it, that I don't know if women should be in the workplace. Maybe they should just be barefoot and pregnant. I didn't actually say that, but they put makeup on and men can't control themselves. It's not good. And women aren't reproducing because they're getting jobs and then they're old and no men want to marry them. Oh no.
trans people are real and deserve to live their lives free of trans people are real and deserve to live their lives free of harm and discrimination, and saying that women are not
trans people too. Remember, plenty of people, heterosexual people, think trans people are weird. There's nothing wrong with thinking trans people are weird, but they're still people. You don't have to fucking go way overboard and jump the shark like Jordan Peterson always does now. You remember how many podcasts and videos he's done about how the doctors who perform trans surgeries, even on consenting adults, are fucking butchers, the equivalent of Nazi scientists experimenting on Jews. He literally talked about that in one video. So he's a fucking wacko about trans people. There's nothing wrong with trans people existing. Get fucking over yourself.
reducible to one singular biological thing, that women are not reducible to one singular biological function. If that is not enough and you're committed to winning an argument against them, the other thing that you can do is appeal to what they know, very much like a robot. A robot will only really know what has been.
Yeah, that's what cult members do. A lot of especially hardcore Jordan Peterson fans are really fucking culty, kind of like they are with Daddy Captain Fat Dumbass Trump. But obviously people are way more fucking culty about Trump than Jordan Peterson. And obviously Jordan Peterson is a huge mega sycophant. But anyway, yeah, just he needs to, these people are huge Jordan Peterson fans. A lot of them, if you actually talk to them a little bit, you'll find out that they actually don't read shit, kind of like Jordan Peterson reading nothing but the Communist Manifesto when he was debating with Slavoj Žižek about Marxism, and clearly falsely claiming to have read literally 200 books on climate change when he was doing a podcast with Joe Rogan once. But obviously, when you talk to his fans, they just repeat his fucking talking points. They don't actually mention books that they've read, or even books beyond his own fucking self-help books, not even reading Maps of Meaning, which is more interesting and complex than his new 12 rules for life shit. With all some of his rules are interesting, but a lot of them are fucking dumb. But anyway,
told to them. A robot will only really know what has been told to them. Very much like these people, they will only know what they have learned from Jordan Peterson. Now, one of the things that Jordan Peterson has been really clear and consistent about is his love of Friedrich Nietzsche, which is ironic. And this is where your argument begins, where Jordan Peterson has also been consistent in his love of Christianity, in his love of science, which is ironic because Nietzsche was one of Christianity and science's greatest opponents. He believed that they both.
Yeah, for example, if Nietzsche obviously wrote a book that was literally called The Antichrist, and he sounds like Sam Harris or Richard Dawkins saying that, basically Enlightenment Christianity is just bad for people and it's irrational and it's causing all sorts of death and just destroying the world. That sort of like way overboard critique of religion. And, Jordan Peterson mentions him in the same breath as religion sometimes, as though Nietzsche would have agreed with literally anything Jordan Peterson says about religion, and he probably agree with 0% of it. And he's clearly like he hasn't read Nietzsche, or at least not recently, and actually thought about it and considered what his opinions are. He uses inaccurate misinterpretations of Nietzsche, including those. I think his name is, I forget what his fucking name. Oh yeah, Stephen Hicks. He wrote that book on postmodernism in which he literally quoted passages and then misinterpreted them to get the correct interpretation backwards. And sometimes if you actually read the books that he's referencing, he what his point that he makes about his misinterpretation of a paragraph is debunked in the very next paragraph. They clarify that they're not making the point that he's making. But anyway, Stephen Hicks wrote this book that a lot of stupid conservative people who have traditionalist interpretations of Nietzsche claim, which is that Nietzsche supported the Nazis, which is really fucking stupid. And also if you know anything about Nietzsche, you know that it's actually the case that his final book, Will to Power, he didn't finish writing it before he died. And then his sister, who was a Nazi unlike Nietzsche and was a huge fan of Hitler, helped use Hitler and incorporate Nietzsche into his Nazi speeches and totally misincorporate Nietzsche. So anyway, the point is that Jordan Peterson is fucking clueless about Nietzsche.
Both embraced an ascetic
Talking about religion
ideal,
and
which
science.
and science's greatest opponents. He believed that they both embraced an ascetic ideal, which led to an impoverishment of life, in that they both tried to appeal
An impoverishment of life. I'm pretty sure he's almost quoting verbatim here. He's not even paraphrasing that much.
to people in their most, which led to an impoverishment of life, in that they both tried to appeal to people in their most basic understandings to make them believe that science and Christianity both have the truth. And you must embrace that truth.
Yeah, and even though Jordan Peterson actually ironically sounds like a so-called postmodernist or a post-structuralist in terms of truth sometimes, and in spite of the fact that he's endlessly strawmanning so-called postmodernists like Foucault and Derrida, who actually have very interesting thoughts, he he has this idea. I actually kind of agree more with him than Sam Harris in their famous, stupid, kind of unnecessary debate in which Sam Harris was talking about objective truth and Jordan Peterson was saying, there are different kinds of truths. There can be religious claims that are not scientifically true. There can be scientific claims that are not religiously true. And you don't have to be a moral relativist if you're like really not sure that objective truth exists. You don't have to objectively say that objective truth doesn't exist if you are highly skeptical that truth exists. You can think that it's extremely highly unlikely. And anyway, especially when Jordan Peterson sounds like he's really making objective truth claims, when he's like basically criticizing people in terms of climate change and vaccines and shit, then he'll sound like he's making objective truth claims, especially in terms of science. And Nietzsche would totally criticize his definition of truth, and even like Jordan Peterson's overall definition of truth too, because Nietzsche had kind of a post-structuralist opinion on truth before post-structuralists even existed, and he was very critical of objective truth, and he wasn't really like a moral relativist, but I don't think he directly said, but he he came really close to directly saying that there is no such thing as capital T truth that never changes or anything like that. I definitely agree with that. But yeah, Nietzsche was extremely critical of religion, science, and truth. Religion in particular, but also science and truth is what Jordan Peterson is very concerned about. He's always talking about the logos, which he means, the logos and God and truth are the most important things in the world, and religion is even more important than objective science and that shit. That kind of shit, of course.
Truth, lest you be seen as being understandings, to make them believe that science and Christianity both have the truth. And you must embrace that truth lest you be seen as being weird. And this is a way to stifle the possibility for freedom of thought, for expression, where if
yeah, like the opposite of Jordan Peterson, right? Jordan Peterson has this stupid idea that you can't enjoy freedom of thought or appreciate art if you're Christian, like stupid typical Christian views. But Nietzsche says that, these ideas like truth, science, and religion hold people back from critical thinking and creative expression, which is, the totally polar opposite view. But I think obviously the truth is somewhere in the middle. But Nietzsche is obviously more correct than Jordan Peterson is. And the point is that his argument for that is the complete opposite of Jordan Peterson's argument.
you refuse to abide by these codes, you would then be chastised. You would then be policed and surveyed. Where he says that science.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Nietzsche talked about that. And that's another thing that like Foucault in particular, some post-structuralists took from Nietzsche, like especially Nietzsche or Foucault, I should say, talking about the surveillance state and then these modern enlightenment institutions like religion, science, and government creating these categories of people like trans people or gay people or something like that, whereas the categories never existed before in order to like condemn these people. And it just totally is completely fucking incompatible with Jordan Peterson's views, because Jordan Peterson is all about modern enlightenment institutions. He's not this like anti-institution guy like some mega people, although he is a fucking wacko when you're talking about science in terms of vaccines or medicine or shit like that. But Nietzsche would totally criticize all of this shit because his interpretations and opinions on these subjects are the complete opposite of Jordan Peterson's opinions.
Confines people to the freedom of thought for expression, where if you refuse to abide by these codes, you would then be chastised. You would then be policed and surveyed.
Oh yeah, I forgot my point that I was going to get to. Obviously Foucault wrote a book all about the surveillance state, particularly obviously the government surveillance state, and how the surveillance state is the government's way of using its power to control people, not just culturally, but with laws and the so-called objective truth claims of science that everyone has to culturally follow, and the religious objective truth claims that everyone has to follow. And Jordan Peterson loves all of these things, and Nietzsche hates them.
He says that science
And listen to his critique.
Where if you refuse to abide by these codes, you would then be chastised. You would then be policed and surveyed. Where he says that science confines people to the smallest circle of solvable tasks, and Christianity will lead people to an impoverishment of life. And these come at the expense of a more thorough engagement with art and beauty and love and thought and excellence, instead appealing to codes and rules to guide you in your life instead of allowing you to think and exist for yourself.
Yeah, doesn't Jordan Peterson's view sound pretty fucking authoritarian in contrast to Nietzsche's view right now, which is completely in contrast to Jordan Peterson's view?
Embracing your identity, embracing the gender you want, how you want to live in the world, as though like making your bed is the way to live.
And you don't have to be like woke to agree with this shit. He's making basic points. And yeah, Jordan Peterson has this view of how to live a good life, like make your bed, be a traditional conservative Christian, but you don't have to live your life that way. There's nothing wrong with living your life that way, but there's also nothing wrong with not living your life that way. So Jordan Peterson and his fucking sycophants should fucking get over themselves.
The good life. So if you want embracing your identity, embracing the gender you want, how you want to live in the world, as though like making your bed is the way to live the good life. So if you want to approach Jordan Peterson fans, you can do it that way, by being Nietzscheans, not Petersonians.
Yeah. Be a Nietzschean, not a Petersonian. Nietzsche or Jordan Peterson is a pseudo-intellectual crackpot. He doesn't know fucking jack shit about philosophy, even though he claims to be a genius on everything. Obviously, Nietzsche himself, if he were alive today, he would have fucking brilliant takedowns of Jordan Peterson. And yeah, the main points here are that Jordan Peterson loves modern enlightenment institutions. He loves capital T truth. He loves religion, and he loves science sometimes, but not other times. But these are all things that Nietzsche was highly critical of and thought that they destroy culture and all of that said. So this is all why, Nietzsche's arguments themselves, anyone can use them to just totally fucking eviscerate and exterminate Jordan Peterson. And that's how you do it, by using fucking Nietzsche's points that Jordan Peterson is completely ignorant of. So use Jordan Peterson, one of Jordan Peterson's apparent favorite philosophers, to debunk him. All right, yeah, as usual, Jordan Peterson is a pseudo-intellectual crackpot, and no one should listen to him because he's an idiot.